is the 2019 Mazda 6 GT, and it's a car that I really rather like. I first drove the current generation Mazda 6 back in, I think it was 2016, and this current facelift model came out last year, and when I first drove it then, I was really impressed with it. Now, I've had a chance to revisit it for the past week, and I remember why I raved so much about it back then, because it's a really good car. It's got a little minor update for 2019, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and a more advanced torque vectoring control system is really about all you're getting for an extra $1,000. The badges look a little bit different too, but that's about it. But even with such a big price increase for not a whole lot of kit, I think it's still a real bargain. This GT version starts at just under 46,000 in sedan form, a little over 47 for the wagon. It's one from the top of the range. The Atenza, which sits right up there, is around about the 50 mark. And I should point out that you're seeing this lovely white leather interior and the gorgeous, gorgeous dark metallic blue paintwork. That's included as standard. The only options that I can think of off the top of my head for this model are two paint colours, the Sol Crystal Red Metallic and Machine Grey. But this blue looks stunning on it, so I'd probably have it in this and save a couple $100 by doing so. Now, while the lower tier models in the Mazda 6 range still have the rather familiar 2.5 litre Atmo 4-cylinder, the GT and Atenza models, as of last year, gained the 2.5 litre turbocharged engine from the Mazda CX-9. And so that's what we've got in this one. And my word, is it a brilliant engine. I love this thing. 170 kilowatts, which isn't all that much given the displacement, but it does make 420 newton meters of torque. The whole point here was to try and make it feel like a diesel, in that it's got heaps of pickup when you really put your foot in, and I mean, it does. It has tons of power given the size of the car and the size of the engine. It's an incredibly smooth unit as well. I think that's probably more impressive than the power it makes, is just how nice and lovely and creamy it is. The throttle response is really good. A little bit of turbo lag given the size of the blower on it, but once you get into it, I mean, it really just hooks up and goes very nicely. It's very healthy, this thing. And the transmission backing it is a big part of why it feels so smooth. It's only a 6-speed torque converter automatic with a set of paddle shifters on the back of the wheel, but I think 6 ratios is enough, quite frankly. Think about this for a second. How many gears does a manual typically have these days? 6. That's all you need. It feels really driver focused as such. The ratio spacing is perfect. The length of the ratios themselves, they're not too short, not too tall, they're just right. Goldilocks would approve of this gearbox. No one's ever said that before. Now, if there's one thing that should be letting it down, it's that the Mazda 6 is front-wheel drive, and of course, as we all know, front-wheel drive, it's for heathens, it's the work of the devil, etc, etc. But it's not, as I think the educated among us will be aware. And even though you can get a little bit of torque steer at lower speeds if you're, trying to turn out of a corner or something like that, it will plow wide at times. 90% of what you're doing, it's not going to matter. Yes, you feel that it's front-wheel drive, but I don't mind that, personally. So I'm not going to hold it against it. And especially when, in every other regard, it handles really well. It just feels so nice through the bends. It's not super flat, but it does ride the boundary between a really plush, boaty ride and a firm, hard sports car ride really nicely. It sits in the middle, which is really good. And I should say, since you're probably seeing a whole bunch of footage of it over the top of me talking right now, it looks absolutely stunning, whether it's parked up or on the road. The new Mazda 6 just looks really gorgeous. It's super, super stylish, sleek, handsome, and you will get compliments on it. I've received quite a few in the course of the past week. And while it looks stunning outside, the interior is equally stunning. I did mention the white leather earlier on, which I think really lifts it in here. It helps it feel nice and open and inviting. The black leather interior, the last one of these that I drove had that, and it's still really nice, really classy, but obviously quite dark overall. You do still get the lighter coloured headliner in the GT model, but if you go for the brown leather in the Atenza, you get a black headliner then. But as it stands, this white interior, I think it's really nice. It's gonna get really dirty. It's gonna be hard to keep clean. But if you're willing to, you know, stay on top of your car cleaning schedule a little bit more than you would otherwise, it's probably going to be worth it because it just makes it look absolutely fantastic. The other thing about the interior is that everything feels really, really high quality. It feels like it's built to a price point higher than what it's at. I mean, all of these leather surfaces are just so soft. There's nice padding down here on the side of the center console for your knee to rest against if you're a bit taller, like I am. Armrests feel nice, and there are some firmer, you know, harder materials in areas that you want to be more hard wearing, but they still feel really nice. There's not a single thing in this entire interior that I've sort of gone, about. Everything's made me go, ooh, that's good. Complaints? Well, I don't have very many at all, given how good it looks, how nice the interior feels, how well made it is, how great the engine is, how nicely it drives. There's really not a whole lot to complain about. The only thing that I can think of that's really standing out, and you can probably hear it on the microphone, is the road noise. NVH levels have always been a bit of a bugbear for Mazda over the years. I've driven the new Mazda 3. You can read our review of that on the drivesection.com website right now. Shameless plug. With that car, Mazda went to an all-new suspension setup, and that fixed basically all of the NVH issues completely. So I'm expecting that when a all-new Mazda 6 comes out in probably a year or two's time, given this one in its current form has been out for a while. This is just a facelift after all, with a new engine, albeit. But I would say that that's about the only thing that really stands out to me. It's a little noisy in the cabin, mainly road noise, not too much wind noise, that's quite good, but the road noise does stand out a bit, especially on coarse-chip country roads like what I'm on right now. The only other sort of thing I can think of would be the fact that I think the Atenza does offer a bit more for the money, because in this GT you are missing the sunroof, you only have heated seats, not cooled seats. The Atenza also gets a heated steering wheel for 2019 and a 360 camera, which I know a couple of people have complained about the quality of that camera, but regardless, I'd like to have one more than only having a rear camera. But even as it stands, I think the GT is a really good point to buy into the Mazda 6 range at. I think it's worth going for this turbo engine over the entry-level naturally aspirated one if you really care about driving, and if you plan on driving it. If you're just going to be sat in traffic all the time, get the Atmo 4, it'll be perfectly fine. It's a wonderful engine, it has cylinder deactivation if you are cruising long distance, so it will save a bit more fuel than it used to. But otherwise, I think this is probably the way to go for most people. Now, will many people buy this based off what I've just said? I don't know. Certainly not enough, I would imagine, to put it into first place in the mid-size sedan under 60 grand category, because the Toyota Camry, well, it's the Toyota Camry. It just sells like hotcakes, and that's what this is playing second fiddle to. I'll put it this way though, your Camry's a good car, but I know what I'd rather have. This Mazda's brilliant, and if you like the look of it, can't recommend it enough. I think it's a fabulous car. See you next time.